What's up, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Bandit, and today I'm going to be talking about the continued evolution of the 1v1 metagame. If you guys haven't seen my previous video on the topic, it'll be linked on screen and in the description. This video goes over every era of 1v1 prior to the DLC 1 drops. So I'm going to be starting this exactly where I left off in that video with the DLC 1. We saw the return of Magnezone, of Porygon Z, Volcarona, and Slowbro, among a couple of others, and we also saw the release of both Urshifu forms. So we saw quite a bit of Choice Band Urshifu Rapid Strike, and a lot of Choice Scarf, Choice Band, and Choppleberry Urshifu Single Striker. We didn't really know at first which one was going to be better, but after a little bit of development, Urshifu Single Strike seems to be the top competitor. A couple other notable things: the Firewater Grass cores of this era were pretty set in stone. Rillaboom is the go-to grass type, and Primarina is the go-to water type. I guess I don't have a perfect example here, but a whole lot of Rillaboom, a whole lot of Primarina. Primarina is great, especially in the metagame with the Urshifus, because Moonblast is great versus those pesky fighting types. And the only other big thing that happened during this era of Gen 8 1v1 was the Cinderace Ban. So Cinderace actually did get banned during this era. It was using way too many different sets, because this thing, in addition to being able to viably run Choice Scarf, Choice Band, Life Orb, Assault Vest, or whatever you want, it just has so many move options. It can use, poison moves, normal moves, fighting moves, Iron Head, Zen Headbutt, Sucker Punch. It just had way too many options. It was beating too many of its checks and counters, and it was impossible to build against reliably. So yeah, just kind of a menace to the metagame, I have to say, when there's nothing else to really keep it in check reliably. So Cinderace was banned. We saw a brief uptick of reboot usage from the people that just wanted to use Libero, but that didn't really stick around for too long. The things that did stick around were Rillaboom, Primarina, Volcarona, and I guess to a little bit of a lesser extent Porygon Z. None of those ever ended up dropping too much in viability. They're all still very good in the present day. I'll move on to the DLC 2, which was very, very interesting. A lot of new faces, a lot of changes. The biggest change, I think, actually wasn't a Pokemon, but rather an item, because the DLC 2 had the return of Custap Berry. Now, Custap Berry is a great item because it allows you to move first in your priority bracket when you're low HP. Moving first is exactly what everything wants to do. Dracovish with Vicious Rend, everything else with Vicious Rend or Bolt Beak. Moltres Galar especially is bananas with this item. It's bulky enough to tank a hit on the physical or special side, and then endure into Custap range, so you can just blow people away with a +3 Hurricane or Fiery Wrath. This Pokemon, probably by far the best of the 3 birds that were released. Moltres Galar is, it's the best one. If I take a look at the other ones, we'll see that Zapdos, while it does have a usable attack and speed stat, it's kind of just limited to, a physical attacking set. It just kind of does one thing, which is hit hard with its stabs and its signature move. Articuno, kind of the same deal. Not super powerful, not super fast, just, usable. And the signature move is kind of cool, but once again, it's nothing like super special. I think of these 3, Moltres Galar was definitely the biggest impact to 1v1. We also saw Regidraco and Regieleki come into the metagame. The Choice Scarf Dragon Energy set has got to be the funniest, because you pretty much just wallop people who aren't, ready for a dragon move. If they don't have a steel type, if they don't have a fairy type, they're just straight up gonna lose to this thing, which is really funny, in my opinion. But Regieleki, kind of the larger one for 1v1. Regieleki, actually that's not the best set. Let me pull up a Choice Specs one. Here we go. Regieleki using Choice Specs, Thunder, and Electro Ball to just one-shot anything that isn't a ground type, pretty much. This thing has really, really good odds at KOing neutral hits, and it absolutely demolishes anything super effective. There is one other Regieleki set that's worth mentioning, which is the Substitute set. Credit goes to TDA for this one, especially the EVs here. That's very nicely set up to tank moves from Victini. Because after Cinderace got banned, Victini became the primary fire type of the tier, able to run V-Create alongside Glaciate and Encore. This combo here, Glaciate, Encore, lets you lock someone into a move, and even if they're faster, you can just Glaciate them and then continue to Encore lock them. So Victini became, you know, the super big, omnipresent threat as a fire Pokemon, and it pairs incredibly well with the previously mentioned Urshifu. So the core that we would see a whole lot during this period of time was Urshifu, Single Strike, and Victini, and a Fairy. Mostly Primarina. A whole lot of people were running that very specific core. Here we go. This is pretty much the primary team that everyone was using. Weakness Policy Victini, Choice Band Rillaboom, Custap Berry Primarina. So Primarina is so great with Custap Berry because it can, you know, endure down to Torrent range and then just blow things away with Hydro Cannon. Doesn't need to be a super effective hit. Also works as a great Urshifu counter with Moonblast. So yeah, Primarina running around like crazy, Rillaboom supporting it, and Victini being Victini. Victini wasn't banned for quite a while, actually. If I go back down to... Oh, you know what? It's not in this because I have a whole separate thingy for it. So the Victini Era of 1v1. Yeah, this is what I was looking for. Also things coming into usage. Custap Berry Snorlax with Belly Drum Encore. You drum yourself into Gluttony range, and then you can use basically a priority Encore. So if your opponent doesn't attack you on turn 1, you pretty much just win. Snorlax is still good today. In fact, it's reaching the A+ and even maybe S- tier. So Snorlax, very big. We also saw Custap Garchomp return. This guy's pretty crazy because a lot of people would run Swords Dance. I have Fire Fang on this set because I needed to beat Genesect. But Custap Berry Garchomp actually is a crazy hitter because a lot of other Custap users are going to be slower than Garchomp. So if you kind of trade off Endures, Garchomp still comes out ahead once all the berries are consumed. This era saw Choice Scarf Cresselia with Trick. This was a genius tech, actually, by several members of the community. The Trick Rest. You just have so much natural bulk that really you take your opponent's item and what can they do? They have to throw their whatever chosen hit at you, and you just rest it off and eventually take them out with your choice of Psychic or Ice Beam. This is pretty much the premier Cresselia set, in my opinion. Registeel also big in this era because coming back with the other Regis, it got Body Press. That's right. Registeel no longer has to rely on Seismic Toss. It can instead use its defense stat as an offensive stat, letting the Iron Defense set put up a marvelous fight versus physical attackers and physical walls. In fact, one of the most common matchups that we'd see around this era is the Avalugg versus Registeel, where just two Pokemon would be spamming Iron Defense and eventually start body pressing each other maxed out. So very body press, very Custap Berry reliant meta. Oh, here's a perfect example of why Victini was kind of so broken that it needed to be banned. The sheer number of things that it can run. We had physically attacking policy sets, special attacking policy sets, bulky sets that don't really need that much offensive investment. This is 8 attack and 12 special attack, and it still beats everything it's supposed to. Scorching Sands means that you never ever lose to Heatran, which is supposed to be like the fire type that beats other fire types. So Victini is, in this case, the fire type that beats other fire types. Wisp lets you beat rock types. Light Screen Weakness Policy lets you beat things like Primarina. Choice Band, of course, is the maximum power V-Create. Choice Specs for the maximum power Blue Flare. Psychic and Grass coverage, which is huge in a metagame where things like Rhyperior are running around. Physical Scarf, V-Create, Special Scarf, Trick. Shuckaberry for ground type lures with Glaciate spam. A lot of things that were just using Encore without, like a specific offensive item. This could be Charcoal or Life Orb or whatever. Custat Berry Victini was used since Endure is just super good and it gets reversal, so bonus fighting coverage. Protect Victini. Oh man, this was used to take on some fake out users, and it's really great for scouting moves. See if your opponent is choiced or if they're like a setup, and then lock them into the setup if they are. King's Rock for fling shenanigans against sturdy Pokemon, and even Assault Vest dealing really well with, once again, things like Heatran, and actually I forget a lot of specific things that Assault Vest Victini beats, but I think I get the point across that Victini just has way too many viable sets, and it is impossible to build for consistently in Team Builder. A little bit similar to Cinderace, the difference I think is Cinderace was more powerful on paper, and Victini is way more versatile. So Cinderace, you at least knew kind of what to expect. Victini, it could be literally anything, and it's probably going to be weakness policy though. Let's see, what else is there for this era? It's pretty much just Custap spam. A lot of Custap Berry, a lot of Body Press, a lot of Trick. Custap Berry, weakness policy. Yeah, it's what the tier looked like. Pretty much this team, Victini, Rillaboom, and Primarina, just the premier fire, water, and grass types running around. Once again, Rillaboom and Primarina stayed at the top of the viability rankings from this point forward, where Victini was kind of struck down. We as a community decided we did not want that anymore. The only other notable Pokemon of this era were Zygarde and Genesect returning. Genesect with the Shift Gear physical set, or even mixed with Ice Beam. That's not Ice Beam. This was very, very powerful. It can just take out the fairies that are omnipresent in the tier, and also deal with the grounds and dragons at the same time. Zygarde, being one of those dragons, is an absolute menace due to the new move Skitter Smack, which allows it to take on fairy types like Primarina and Tapu Fini. You can just lower their special attack to the point where they can't really damage you, and then rest up and take them out with Coil and Thousand Arrows, which hits every type. Zygarde is probably an A+ threat at this point, and it stays at that high level of viability. Less choice items, more Custap Endure, and heavy centralization around one Pokemon, Victini. Moving on to present day, Urshifu Era Gen 8 1v1. So this is the point where I'm recording. You can see there's a little bit less teams, but basically the point is Victini is gone, so Urshifu lost that check of Dazzling Gleam Victini. So Urshifu, both forms, are still running around like crazy. The two best sets are pretty much Choppleberry Bulk Up and Choice Scarf Fling Bulk Up, since you can get past things like Crustle and Chansey with the combination of Fling and Bulk Up. Let's see, what else is worth talking about in present day? Some interesting Choice Band users coming into play, things that we don't always see. This set is from eBlurb, so shout out eBlurb for Choice Band, Landorus, taking out a lot of things in the tier due to its obscenely high attack stat. 145 is pretty crazy for a physical attacker, and very strong coverage as well. It's got Edge Quake plus Fighting, which is really all you ever need. Tapu Lele, all the Tapus coming back is kind of nice, although the terrain nerfs do hurt quite a bit. You're not dropping Psyshocks and Psychics with quite the same level of damage, since it's only a 1.3 boost instead of a 1.5. However, Endure Custap is a very nice tech to be running on things like Tapu Lele. Jirachi also still being used quite a bit. Choice Scarf, Trick. It's Jirachi. You know exactly what it does. Firewater Grass cores are pretty much looking similar. Still tons of Primarina everywhere. People are running mostly Custap Berry. Some people are using Wakan Berry if you need to beat electric types. Some people are using Chilan Berry if you need to beat Giga Impact and Hyper Beam users. I'm partial to the weakness policy sets because you don't need any serious offensive investment. You can just bulk to tank a hit and then KO at +2. So yeah, Primarina still at the top. Rillaboom still at the top. Urshifu still at the top. Regieleki is still pretty much using the exact same sets, just choice specs. Because what else could you want more than, specs Electro Ball? This team built by LRXC, an amazing 1v1 YouTuber that's up and coming. Go ahead and check out his channel, linked in the description. He passed me this. Actually, this is a sample team that he built with Iron Defense, Body Press, Avalugg, Specs Regieleki, and Volcarona. I think this team is pretty indicative of where the metagame is at right now. It's still a lot of Iron Defense Press or Iron Defense Press mirrors, a lot of specs, a lot of setup. I feel like there should be a couple more Custap berries in this example, but this is pretty much where the metagame has landed, which is right on top of Snorlax and Genesect. Genesect specifically because Victini's gone and now people are struggling to find a good fire type to replace it. That's why I kind of brought up Heatran here. I feel like Heatran could fill that role to a little bit of a lesser extent. But yeah, Genesect with an Aqua Berry or a Life Orb definitely going to be jumping up in usage. Snorlax also coming up in usage, not limited to Choice Band or Custap. This thing can also run just regular leftovers with Curse, Rock Tomb, and it has a lot of good options, actually. Amnesia, if you want to beat special attackers. Encore, of course. Heat Crash is pretty notable. But the point is, everything is now bulky to the point where choice items aren't a guaranteed one-shot. Everything that's good, like Zygarde and Snorlax, they're just running a ton of bulk so that they can survive hits. And they're oftentimes abusing items like Custap Berry to get their moves off. If you guys want to see what the metagame looks like right now, I suggest that you check out the 1v1 Viability Rankings. This page right here, the VR Council, which I am/was a part of, and the current best Pokemon in the tier. So right now, Snorlax and Urshifu Single Strike are the top contenders. Genesect, Primarina, and Zygarde are right behind him. Scarf Trick Cresselia is still in usage. Scarf Trick Jirachi, same thing. Custap Berry Moltres G. Necrozma is back in, running a couple crazy sets. Power Herb, Meteor Beam is a big one, but also just regular choice specs and Calm Mind sets are working really well. Rillaboom, as I mentioned, never really dropped too far on viability. Sylveon and Togekiss are still the best fairies allowed in the tier. And the things that we saw earlier on in the metagame, like Darmanitan G, they still exist. There's still things that you have to prepare for in Team Preview. You can't just bring a team that loses to Darm G or you're making a mistake, but its usage is nowhere near what it was at the beginning of the generation. I already talked about Registeel using Body Press. Spectrier. Oh, I forgot the horses. That's right. So Spectrier and Glastrier. Two crazy new Pokemon. Spectrier and Glastrier. This one. Spectrier, a lot like Dragapult. It's just a really fast Will-O-Wisp Hex user with Taunt, Calm Mind, Disable. It's kind of interesting. It's just really, really powerful, and it has 5 attacks total, so you don't have to worry about losing to some crazy, weird Spectrier set. It's just a matter of optimizing EVs. This one is actually way too offensive. I feel like the best sets are going to have a lot more HP and defensive investments. Just my thoughts. Glastrier, a lot like Avalugg. if you guys don't know what these things are supposed to do, just picture them as Dragapult and Avalugg. Easy. Iron Defense Press, Avalanche, of course, and Endure Custap does work really well on Glastrier, although people are also using Choice Band. They're also using, you know, recovery items like Citrus Berry, since that's always nice for an Iron Defense user. But yeah, it's pretty much Avalugg, but a little bit faster. Is it even faster? Yes, slightly faster. Two base points higher. So that's that. A couple new interesting additions to the metagame. Past that, Urshifu Era. Oh, you know what? There is a relevant Urshifu Era set, which is Roselli Berry. So people have been using Roselli Urshifu Era to beat things like Primarina. They'll pull up with Thunder Punch and hit it once. It hits back with a Moonblast that gets reduced, and then you 2-hit KO it with your second Thunder Punch. So that's pretty notable. Volcanion's pretty good as a Fire-Water type. It's unique, so it can kind of fill a role that no other Pokemon can on a team. And then just going down real quick, touching on a couple of these. Dragapult is still relevant because of its speed tier. Nothing can naturally outspeed Dragapult, well, except for, you know, Regieleki. But in general, it is the speed tier to be aware of. I already talked about Garchomp. Briefly mentioned Tapu Fini, just because Fairy types are always really, really powerful in this meta. And it isn't on paper as powerful as Primarina. It does definitely have a niche as a taunt user and as a Nature's Madness user. So still a good Pokemon, still viable. We have kind of the same special attacker group with Naganadel, Porygon Z. You see, Porygon Z was actually S- rank in DLC 1 drop, and now post DLC 2 it's dropped all the way down to B+. People have just adapted to it, but more importantly, Custap Berry has kind of invalidated Hyper Beam spam, so not as good as it once was. Regieleki, using Thunder Cage, especially Thunder Cage, is really a notable move because it beats Custap Berry Primarina, which otherwise would Endure and Hydro Cannon it. Suicune is underrated, very, very powerful. Zeraora is also underrated, not because it's so powerful, but because it is so versatile. You can beat almost anything with the right Zeraora spread. I could keep going down this, but I think I've hit all of the super relevant points. These Pokemon are good. You should try using them. If you don't know what to use, check the 1v1 VR. It'll give you a good idea of at least what to be ready for. If you don't want to use the top ranked Pokemon, that's understandable, but at least have something to counter them. That pretty much wraps up this video. That's everything I wanted to talk about. All of the DLC eras of 1v1, the Cinderace Ban, the Victini Ban, and the 1v1 Viability Rankings. So once again, feel free to check out the VR, linked into the description. If you want to know what's good right now. And I think that's a pretty good snapshot of kind of each era of 1v1. So that'll do it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you again next time.